Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of a podcast called Mental Debrief, presented by Tonique Media. I'm your host, Emma Wright, and hosting alongside me is our fearless leader of Tonique, Cade Guerrero. Hello.
Hey, Emma, how's it going?
So good.
Doing great. Doing great. We're talking about escapism today. Yeah.
Escapism, yes.
Our second or third time around, but we love doing it.
Doing it.
Yeah, but it's cool, we were talking about it earlier. These are always nice, like, talks and breaks from kind of everything. It's kind of one of the things I look forward to every week, getting to discuss mental situations and different subgenres of the mind. So it's cool.
Yeah, I totally look forward to it also. Mm-hmm. And I think we were just chatting about this. Or, I sometimes come into these episodes recording and maybe I'm not in the best headspace, and I always feel better when I leave. It's a really talking about it is healthy. So yeah, thank you for sharing this space, and as listeners, thank you for also being a part of this space. So we really hope that it does the same thing for you too.
Yeah, totally. So talking about escapism today, Emma, what is escapism?
So escapism is, honestly, it's pretty straightforward. You're utilizing tasks, substances, maybe variety of things to distract your brain from a problem at hand. So whether that problem is anxiety or depression, a chronic problem that is not so straightforward, or it's like a stress of a job or school, something like that, family stressors. Escapism is that kind of removing your brain from that problem so that you can have a break. And there are good and bad forms of this, but we're also going to talk a little bit about kind of these labels that we use: good, bad, etc. Because there's a lot of gray area here. You want to kind of get into some of the examples that we talked about?
Yes, absolutely. So pros and cons, right? The pros and the negatives. And a lot of the positive forms of escapism is obviously going to be like yoga, exercise, meditation, and the negative ones that are more towards being harmful towards your body, such as, indulging in like binge drinking or like drugs, narcotics. So yeah, I mean, those are just kind of like the two discrepancies between escapism.
Yeah. And those are some pretty extreme examples, right? You have would I rather meditate or would I rather do hard drugs? One of those is clearly we're doing a good and bad thing, right?
Right, exactly.
But you can definitely escape too far into it or push something too far on that good scale. Like over exercising, people who are really obsessive about the way they eat, sure, they're eating really clean, but it's totally a compulsion, and then that's opening up a whole new set of problems. That's no longer truly an escape anymore. That's now more of a vice, right?
Absolutely. And we both talked about our experiences with using escapism, but one of the pros that I used to do all the time, the positive ones, was running, exercising, and eventually got really unhealthy for me because I was just running my body into the ground. I would run so much because that was my form of kind of coping with a lot of stuff that was going on at the time. And previously, before that, I was actually drinking a lot in college because, typical college stuff, right? We have exams, meetings, deadlines, stuff like that. Also, I was a journalism major, and I was working for my university paper at the time, so having to put that on top of it. So always going to the bar right across the street from the university, drinking vast amounts and doing all my assignments and all my stuff, and then it really became a negative form of escapism. So got off that, started running, but the exact same thing was happening, just overindulging in something.
So you kind of went from one extreme that we call negative to another extreme on the positive end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just
So I'd love to hear more about, like, if you're wanting to share about it, kind of these like
Mhm.
realizations that you went through both of these processes, like in the midst of your drinking a ton, and then even in the midst of running, kind of like where were your tipping points and maybe indicators? It's like, oh shit, this isn't doing good things for me anymore.
Yeah, totally. So I think with the drinking as well, like being in college, it's like just a stereotype to really be, drinking and partying during that time of your life. But I was actually going out with friends and stuff like that. I'm a very, very introverted person, so the drinking added to kind of me being an extrovert or an outrovert or whatever the other term is. Outrovert, extrovert.
Extrovert, I think you can use interchangeably. Usually
Yeah.
extrovert, but I think you can be outroverted too. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, yeah, so they would expect this from me because I would be more open, like loving, hugging, stuff like that. And then people were kind of like expecting, like, oh, Cade's great when he drinks, and oh, he gets all his stuff done while he drinks. That's so cool. So it became like an actual part of me. And people expected that from me, and that's a bummer. You don't want to be caught with that label, that association with something. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
eventually realized what I was doing, especially to my body as well. Like, when you get hangovers and they're just like unbearable, you're bedridden all day. I would actually, my cure to a hangover was to drink more the next day. You know
Hair
what I
of the
mean?
dog.
Hair of the dog.
'Cause-
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was
Which
like,
I would argue there's a time and a place for, but like consistently,
Mhm. Yeah,
that's,
exactly. Like you're on vacation. Okay. You're right. Have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Bloody Mary, or like I don't know, on the
Sorry,
weekend.
yet?
Yeah, exactly. But it was like a constant thing for me. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I was escaping. I was using that to cope with my stress, my anxiety, my depression. It got me out of that depressed mind state because I'm feeling the sense of euphoria from alcohol. So anyway, we realized how negatively it was affecting my body and my mind. In the end, my mind like turned to mush. Like literally, you drink so long, you literally feel so much like less intelligent. That didn't make any sense, that sentence, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. So
There's some irony in
yeah. So I turned to running and exercising, and I was running from like 2 miles a day, every day, moving it up to 4 miles. There was a couple of like 10-mile runs I'd gone on to, and I remember my joints and everything in my body feeling so weak and like about on the verge of breaking, I guess. So yeah, then I had to realize like, why am I doing this? And it was like same thing, getting away from stress, getting kind of like a runner's high, and helping me with my depression. But yeah, it was a positive one that turned a little negative, and it was like I had to go run, like I had to. You know what I mean? I had to stop. I had to schedule everything around this. So
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's intense.
I looked great. So
Do you
yeah.
still run now? Like, is that something you still enjoy, or you had to modify it a little?
I still enjoy it, but I'll be honest with you. Ever since the lockdowns, I haven't been once, and it's been over a year. So I'm trying to get back into it. We'll see. I'm a huge runner. I'm a huge advocate for running, but yeah. So
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better. I don't remember the last time I went on a run, so I couldn't even tell you.
right, yeah. But you got your HIIT classes.
Yeah, bar. I teach
Bar.
I teach at Pure Bar. Also.
Yeah.
And that one, yeah, it's high intensity but low impact.
Mhm.
And there's not a ton of cardio. Like cardio is really not my jam actually. My resting heart rate is really high as it is. Probably around like 95 BPM is my resting heart rate.
Mhm.
So when I start to do cardio, getting it so far, I'm trying to say so far up and so high up at the same time. So high up so quickly.
Mhm.
Makes me really lightheaded, makes me feel like I can feel it pulsing in my neck. Like it's just a really uncomfortable feeling. So I try to practice cardio in some like little bit slower ways. getting some good cardio here. Actually, the place that I'm living in currently in Costa Rica is up a really huge hill. So my calves are going to look bomb after this.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
So,
yeah, I digress.
yeah, let's talk about your experiences with positive and negative.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I have, thoughts and maybe even some more questions about that too, but I want to unpack that a little bit later also. Yeah, escapism for me has come in a lot of different forms over the years because I feel like I've, the struggles I'm dealing with from my brain that I'm maybe looking to escape from are not always very consistent. For a while, it was a chronic illness, like I've talked about. And that one I couldn't really physically do much about, like because it was affecting my body so much. I wasn't really able to like connect into anything the way that I wanted to, at least at first. Then I kind of got on a healing track, after 1.5, 2 years. It involved a lot of adjusting the way I ate, some different like herbal treatments, and this was all, I could unpack this story in a different way too, because the whole thing is honestly pretty insane. And I kind of look back at that time in my life and think, well, it doesn't even feel like it happened to me, it feels like it happened to a different person.
Right.
But once I started kind of working on this like cleaner eating, I actually went and got certified as a nutritionist a few years ago. There was a strong period there where I was really obsessive about the way that I ate because it was something I had control over, right? And so I was kind of like, if I was in pain or something, my tendency to escape would be to control what I was eating, control a supplement that I was taking, do all of the research and bring it back around to get it to something that I could work with. And in the end, it was just total tunnel vision, right? It was like I had blinders on. I just couldn't really like be in touch with the normal world. I was afraid to go to restaurants and stuff. I was afraid to go to all these things. I was afraid of what I was putting in my body all the time, and I was really critical of myself if I like ate differently, I guess. So I was just extreme. It was also to the point too, like if I was in pain or something, I wouldn't take any pain medication. I wouldn't take any Advil. I wouldn't take anything. I was like, no, I'm done with these. I'm done with drugs. I'm done with taking anything. But at some point, like, I'd have a really bad cold and just be feeling like shit and unable to get to work and unable to get to class, and I still wouldn't help myself because I felt like I needed to kind of be in that space. And so while that escape and that train of working through my life worked for a time, it definitely became unhealthy at some point. And I'm not really sure when I realized that was becoming unhealthy, but I just kind of started to acknowledge that judgment that I had and release it a little bit. Feel a lot better now. Other forms of escapism, definitely like smoking and drinking. Nothing too crazy, but over the years, I definitely have kind of gone up and down. I find that in the wintertime, my depression is worse. Seasonal depression is totally a thing. I'm regular depressed. So in the seasonal times, it gets worse. Like a lot of us experience. I find that I smoke way more, and by smoking, I'm talking about marijuana. I smoke way more in the wintertime than I do in the summertime. I almost don't even think about it at any other time. And it's kind of one of those, like, what else do you do? Like, it's cold outside. I'm sad. I'm going to be inside anyway. Like, I may as well just kind of numb out and not think about how depressed I am about everything else. But then I'm just less productive. I'm less engaged. I'm less inclined to do projects that might actually make me feel better. So yeah, it's been like, again, nothing really crazy extreme on my end, but definitely in the wintertime, over the years, I try to catch myself a little bit earlier and be like, hey, this is not a good pattern you want to be in, mindful of the people I spend my time with. Yeah, things like that. Yeah, that's, but I also wanted to touch on another form of escapism that is unconscious. This one, we talked about briefly last time we chatted, and it is something that we really have little control over. It happens to those of us who struggle with anxiety, those of us struggle with PTSD, sometimes people with depression, but it's dissociation. And dissociation happens essentially when your brain is like, we've had too much stimulus, we're done, we're checking out. Sounds great, but it feels like shit. you don't really feel like you're living in your body anymore. The stuff around you, suddenly it's like you're a foreigner trapped in an alien trapped in somebody else's body, and you're trying to work their life. Nothing feels familiar anymore. It's the weirdest thing. Really, that's a protection mechanism. Your brain is saying, we've had too much of whatever this is. The alarm bells are going off. We're out. We're done. And it can take hours to days to get out of this space. Maybe even like, upwards of a week. I feel like I've had dissociative episodes last a long time. And I think that you've maybe experienced some of this too in some ways.
Yeah, I definitely did. And I think I touched on this as well. I think for me, it's kind of like getting so stressed, and it's like having that 1,000-mile stare. Like all this stuff's going on around you, but it's like, when your ears are ringing, and you're just like, what the hell? So that's what it's like for me. Kind of dissociating with people, just kind of just like being non-existent, like your body is literally just a vessel, but your mind is just extremely overwhelmed. So same thing. Just
yeah. And it's difficult for me to process the things that people are saying to me too. Mm-hmm. Like accepting any new information, my body's kind of like, we're not computing,
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. They'll be like, Cade, and I'm just like not even responsive.
Yeah, it's a tough space to be in, and that one we have a lot less control over, right? Because it's our brain's protection mechanism, but it's not always very helpful, and it's not always it doesn't always have to do with a specific trigger. I find it really difficult to find what my triggers are, because all of a sudden I'll kind of, once I'm in the middle of a dissociative episode, I can recognize it and be like, okay, we're here. I don't know how we got here though. I'm not sure what triggered me. I'll like wake up in the morning, make coffee, do whatever, and then all of a sudden an hour goes by and I'm a vegetable and I don't know how I got there. So I wrote an article about this for Tonique a few months ago. I've been maybe back in December actually, about ways I was helping myself out of these dissociative episodes, or at least help myself feel a bit grounded, because it just kind of feels like you're floating in space. Strong flavors, a lot of sensory stuff. So strong flavors, like making a strong cup of coffee. Time of the day is for me, that's it. Like strong tea works for you, go for it. Anything, the strong coffee is one that does it for me. I looked up some resources. Holding ice cubes apparently is a great one. I actually haven't tried this one, but yeah, apparently holding ice cubes and feeling that intense cold can help bring you back. Stamping your feet is a big one. My counselor a few years ago gave me that recommendation. I was starting to have flashbacks while I was in the middle of classes in college, and stamping my feet really helped me come back from a flashback. It was super cool, because no one's really noticing kind of what you're doing with your feet. Especially when you're in college, like people are like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember we had talked about this too. And I think one of my big methods was drinking, like making some tea and watching the sunset. I think so. Or was that another episode? I can't remember. But
might have been a different episode.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like having like a really hot beverage and just watching something that's visually stimulating. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've really tried this method in a long time, but ASMR is kind of helpful too.
I've never tried it.
Like ASMR, just the videos of people cutting sand, like, oh god, it's so relaxing. so nice. And you can kind of zone out too.
Wow.
So yeah, these like ways we zone out, aside from dissociation, like all in all, these are ways we're trying to protect ourselves, right? Like we're trying to protect ourselves from the stress. We're trying to protect ourselves from anxiety disorders, from depression, from all these things that are really weighing on us, right? And there are healthy ways to do that. Like I still drink, I still smoke, but I also still try to get some exercise. I try to be mindful of the way I eat, but I'm hopefully not like getting too caught up. And it just involves a little bit of that kind of checking in on yourself to say like, am I doing this in a healthy way? Am I doing this in a mindful way? Our intuition always knows, right? Like we know when we're doing something that's not good for us, but we're just really good at ignoring that.
Yeah. Yes, same. I would say the same. I've actually I've taken a break from alcohol. I went like,
nice.
a while without not drinking it. I think this last weekend I indulged a bit, but so far this week, yeah, just been on that sober train. I'll still take an edible from time to time to help me go to sleep. I'm not a huge like smoker of cannabis, but I'll definitely ingest. I've actually gotten to be able to control my high, so that's been nice. Because like in the beginning, if I took an edible, I'd be like, "What the hell is going on?" Like it was crazy. So
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare to me right
now. Yeah. So other than that, yeah, same thing. I haven't really exercised in a very long time, which is a bummer. I need to get back into it. So but yeah, other than that, yeah, just kind of moderating everything.
Yeah. Yeah, moderating and like going with the flow is kind of what it sounds like. Also, I just want to say I'm stoked that you're taking a break from drinking and you're excited about that. It seems like next, I know that's a tough thing.
Yeah.
Like it's just tough when it's a social thing, you know.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, you get this, and I think a lot of our audience does, especially being in your 20s. It seems like alcohol is just always around. You know, it's like everybody's like doing it. Like, well, of course everybody's doing it, but like it's like it's always like these invitations to like, hey, we're having a party. So that's always my challenge, especially when I'm trying to be like sober, is not drinking around people who are. But there's this bar here in Albuquerque. It's one of my friend's bar. He owns a brewery. They brewed kombucha and they have it on tap. So and it looks like beer. So you kind of have to you have to trick your brain a little bit. And I just been drinking kombucha when I go out, or like soda water when I'm at restaurants and stuff.
Nice. That's super cool. I wanna go to that place. That sounds magical.
Yeah, it's pretty grungy, but it's cool. It's a cool vibe.
Yeah, I've actually been trying I work at a bar at home. We have 44 tap handles, and I've been trying to kind of push our owner, our manager, to get a non-alcoholic tap, because we have like O'Doul's amber ale in a bottle, and that's like the only non-alcoholic option we have that's not like juice or soda.
Yeah, the standard.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, like there's a market for this. Like there's a lot of times I go out and like, yeah, I totally struggle with that kind of not drinking when everybody else around me is drinking, because I'm far more of a recreational drinker and smoker too. Like I don't really keep alcohol at home, but then when I go out, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, sure, I'll have this. Oh, that cocktail sounds really good, or whatever. Like I want to try new things. So I really, since I've been spending time here in Costa Rica, I've hardly had any alcohol. I think you can count on one hand the beverages that I've had since mid-April, which is awesome for me because it's kind of been this unintentional break. However, like where I've been living, there's really no alcohol, and like I don't really get into town because I have everything I need up at this farm.
Yeah.
I actually did make alcohol though. That was pretty fun. It was for medicinal uses though, so it was not good.
Like alcohol, like to cleanse a cut, right?
To make tinctures with, actually. So you essentially make an herb. So a tincture is like herbs that have been in an alcohol extract. So like vanilla extract is kind of like a tincture because you're extracting all those good flavors with an alcohol.
Okay.
But yeah, it tastes really intense.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, sick.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, cool. I think that should wrap up Escapism, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I hope that this was definitely a good conversation for me to visit in the first place and to revisit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and just as far as our audience is listening to, I hope it's helpful to hear these conversations from us. We're looking to have more guests coming on in the meantime, people from the Latini team or otherwise. So we think that's important too. And also just know that like wherever you're at in your struggles, whether you're looking to escape from something or you're in the middle of working on healthy boundaries with things in your life, like we're all just doing the best we can with what we've got at any time. And I just really want to make sure I'm passing on that message as well, because I think we all could use that reminder sometime.
Absolutely. So definitely check us out. And then also we'll be back with another episode, hopefully with a guest. We'll definitely have one. But shout out to our sponsor, Soul 48. Go check out what they got going on. Shout out to College Level. one of our writers, Joel Haroma. Haroma, right? Haroma, yeah. He's one of the writers in the culture department, writes about video games and stuff, and then also is the drummer in college level. So definitely go check him out.
Yeah, one of my friends. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me today and just doing this with me every day, or every week. But yeah, cool. All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
See you all next time.
All right.
Bye.